Center for Inquiry are kindergarten through 8th grade magnet schools in the Indianapolis public school system. To talk about education and our community is the principal of the award-winning Center for Inquiry, School Number 2. Joining us today is Andrea Hunley. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And congratulations on being an award-winning school.
Thank
really
you.
Appreciate that. So your Center for Inquiry school is in IPS, but what makes it different and special since it is a public school?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So Center for Inquiry schools were started 30 years ago in 1993 by teachers who had this big dream and this big vision to make sure that learning could be hands-on and that students would have voice and choice in the curriculum. And so we started as one school 30 years ago, and now we have 4 different locations across the city.
Wow, that's great. So you started back for this semester, and kids have been out previously from the pandemic, but you were back last semester. You're back now. How are kids faring?
This is my 10th year as a principal, and I will tell you that I'm really proud of how kids are doing this year. That being said, it's been really, really hard on kids as they've transitioned to the classroom. But being in person is so critical because now we can better address their academic needs and their social needs. But that virtual learning was really hard. You can't do art or music very well over a computer screen. Math problem solving, doing book clubs, it's really hard because you can't collaborate and talk to each other. And the other piece about being back in person is that our kids' social needs, their emotional needs are really high right now. You know that for our students, this is their 3rd school year of disrupted learning. So all that anxiety and that frustration and that worry, it builds up for them and it makes it really challenging. And not just for kids, but for teachers and for parents too.
Is it still disruptive now that they're back?
It still is because there's that uncertainty around quarantining, around isolation. Am I going to get sick? Is my friend going to get sick? Is my teacher going to get sick? And then there's all this disappointment. You know, one day field trips are on, the next day they're off. One day we can, sing and dance together in the music room. The next day we can't because, of viral spread. So there's just a lot of disappointment that gets built up in that. And then kids don't all know how to express that in healthy ways.
So, Andrea, in the business world and in the political world, there's always so much talk about education. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. But is enough being done to help our youth succeed?
We can always do more and we can always do better. Our fragile families really depend on school, especially for arts programming and STEM programming. Families are working really hard and families are trying to pay rent and deal with inflation, and not everybody, not families like mine, we can't afford to do all these extra things for our kids. And so we depend on schools to make sure that we have these robust curricula, that center the arts and center music. And this is especially true in our Black and Latino and Latina communities where schools get seen as underperforming, and then we tighten the reins and we only focus on math and we only focus on reading when we should be infusing art and music and PE and social studies and sciences all together so that kids have joy of learning and joy of the curriculum and see themselves reflected. That's how we get the next Marie Evans and Major Taylor and Wes Montgomery, is by making sure that our brown and Black students can see themselves reflected and have that joy in learning.
So what I hear you saying is there's always a lot of talk about STEM, but we really need STEAM, which would include the arts.
Absolutely.
So science, technology, and math. We need the arts as well.
Absolutely, and it's all interconnected with reading and math.
Right. Mm-hmm. So what can our community do to help?
Well, the big thing is that everyone needs to agree that public schools are incredibly important to our community, and not just for parents like me of school-age children. It's important for all of us. All of our tax money, we're all dependent on schools, and we're all invested in our schools. And so I would say that the community needs to volunteer, need to show up, need to donate, and then need to make sure that our voices are heard at the school board level, at the state house level as well.
Great information. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. This has been your Community Link for this week.